Welcome back, fellow cardboarders. I've been approached many times and today's finally the video. How do I go about deciding how many commons, uncommons and rares are put into my vintage set cubes? And today you're in luck because we're trying to answer all the questions and more in another installment of Quest for Cube. We got two letters here, which we're gonna open in a second. Got some unlimited cards I want to add to my unlimited set cube, which is slowly but steadily shaping up. As you can see, I got myself some wonderful, nice lightning bolt here from Unlimited. It has a little white nick specks here and there, but otherwise no inking whatsoever. And we'll find a home in my unlimited set cube, as well as these blue elemental blasts, which I also traded for. I don't remember exactly how the trade went. I think partly this one I received in an earlier video where I showed you my Gamegenic boxes. The Lich, gonna not look at it today too much because there is another video if you want to watch it after this one. The blue elemental blasts I traded for, as well as the Animate Dead here, which is an uncommon. So this brings us right to the question, how do I decide how many uncommons and commons as well as rares are put into set cubes of mine? And a little fun fact, I actually did not calculate up until now how many uncommons I need for my set cube of Unlimited. I thought I would need 2 of each, but actually there are enough uncommons that I could build a whole set cube with just 1 of each uncommon, which will also reduce the costs of building a set cube. But then again, if you wanted to have 2 demonic tutors every other game, then you would have to double the number of uncommons. This is also an unlimited one, by the way, which is a little rough on the edges, but all in all has a really nice eye appeal. So from afar, this card looks really nice, and I am glad to have this, so thank you to the person who traded me these cards here. To the persons, I think it was 2 trades if I recall correctly. So this is how I went about the unlimited set cube, which is easier to calculate how many of each cards you need than the sets we're gonna talk to in a minute. There are different websites. I like to use Planet MtG. It is a German website, but the names of the cards are in English, so it shouldn't be too hard for you to navigate through the website. You scroll all the way down to the unlimited set and then click checklist in English. Obviously, the German one doesn't exist. Unlimited was only printed in English. And then you see a whole list sorted by color, and you also see the rarity next to every single card name. Now, as I said, the unlimited set is quite easy and self-explanatory in my eyes. So the commons obviously are the most common cards to get out of a booster, while the uncommons are a little rarer and the rares are the rarest. Obviously you only get 1 rare in a booster pack. But the question is how many commons are put into a set cube? And the first question you have to ask yourself when you want to build any set cube is how many people do you want to be able to play with when you take out your set cube. So for me it was the arbitrary number of 10. Just being able to create 5 pairs of players and having a good time sounded like a nice number. And I also, as you might know on the channel, like to collect all the vintage set cubes. So the dark set is already complete. And therefore I would be able to also mix the sets. So for example, I could have the unlimited set as like a base set and then add some The Dark, Legends or Antiquities boosters to spice up things and make them more interesting and add some variance to it, as well as enable some nice and interesting combos. But if I wanted to just play a single set, I would be able to play any of my sets with 10 players if I wanted to. So for example, Unlimited has like 302 cards, if I recall it correctly. And what you want to look at with the Planet MtG website is how many commons are there, how many uncommons, and how many rares, and how many cards of each rarity would you need to create a set cube, for example, for like 10 players. A unlimited booster pack contained the usual 15 cards. So for example, you had like a rare, like a pirate ship, a Netling imp, what else is a uncommon? I think Rod of Ruin is an uncommon, correct me if I'm wrong, and camouflage. And then you would have random commons in the common slot. Is Cursed Land a common? Nope, it's an uncommon, just checked. Spellblast probably is, and the Worm and the Wall of Bone, Lake Rats, and some... what else do we put in here? Some Flight? Some Flight. So this could be a booster pack if you bought one, and would look like this. I don't know exactly about the order, but I do like to keep it like this, so everyone knows that the last card is the rare, and you have the uncommons here, and then the commons here. Obviously, while drafting, you could shuffle them, and probably it will also happen, but for the first person, they should know that this is the rare that they picked. Aren't you glad you just spent hundreds of dollars to get a near mint pirate ship out of a booster pack from Unlimited? Yeah, that can happen. It's not always like a demonic tutor in there and a lich as a rare. That doesn't always happen. So yeah, but the idea is to experience drafting with Unlimited, and yes, I am planning to at some point have Power 9, but right now my focus is on getting the commons and uncommons together, since these will be the cheapest things to acquire and will enable me to play the set cube earlier than I would if I would spend all of my money for Power 9 cards and then don't really have a set to play with. So that's the idea here. And what that means is that you have like 11 commons in a booster pack, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare. What does that mean for 10 players when everyone gets like 3 booster packs for a draft? Let's do some quick math, don't worry, it's not too bad. When you have 11 commons in a booster pack, you want to give everyone 3 boosters, you need 33 commons per player. And if you want to play with 10 people, you multiply it by 10, so you need at least 330 commons. Planet MtG, when you press Ctrl F or Command F, depending on your operating system, when you search for C1, you find 75 commons. So you have a big print sheet of commons at the Wizard of the Coast printer factory, and all the commons from Unlimited are on there. Each of them just appeared once for every other common. So when you divide the 330 commons we need by 75, you get 4.4 commons. So there is a second thing I realized, is that I will need 5 of each common in the entire Unlimited set. So these 4 blue elemental blasts are great, but I will actually need another one to complete the common set of blue elemental blasts. I will also need 5 lightning bolts, since lightning bolt is a common in the set. And yeah, that's around 10 bucks per piece, so it's not gonna be too cheap for me. But yeah, one step at a time. And I'm in no rush to completing this set. If I have some money over and want to spend my leftover money for some cardboard, I will check around, see what I can find, or trade with friends like I did here, to get the commons, uncommons, and rares I need. What you might have noticed is that I do not have any lands for the booster packs. So in a normal booster pack of Unlimited, you would have like 1 or maybe even 2 basic lands, maybe even more. And I want people to actually draft cards, not lands. So the lands are bonus, and therefore they are not counted into the commons. I just realized I wanted to use the thicker sleeve here. So yeah, that means that I cannot count the lands towards the commons that exist, and I will need more commons. Secondly, let's look at the uncommons. When you search for U1, you find that there were 95 uncommons on the unlimited print sheet. So when we calculate 3 uncommons per booster pack, we want to give everyone 3 packs. That means we need 9 uncommons per player. And we multiply it by 10 players. If we want the set cube to be played by 10 players, we need 90 uncommons. There are 95 in existence, so if we play with 10 players, we actually have 5 uncommons too many. And therefore, 1 of each uncommon is enough to build a set cube for 10 players for unlimited. Now lastly, let's look at the rares. The unlimited set had 117 rares in the entire set, which means if we put 1 rare into each booster pack and give each player 3 boosters, that means that if we have 10 players, we only need actually 30 rares to build an entire unlimited set cube. That means I can play the entire unlimited set cube already finished out with just 30 rares. And that's really nice to realize, because I don't need the power 9 really. Like, it's nice to have, but they're not the strongest cards in a draft. Maybe the extra turn cards, but like just drawing 3 cards doesn't really win you the game when you play Ancestral Recall. So yeah, maybe an extra turn spell would actually help a lot, or the Time Twister that resets the game. But yeah, always keep in mind that if you play the set cube earlier than before it's finished, that you try to have a little balance with the colors, so that you didn't buy all the blue cards, for example, of an entire set, and some red cards and green cards, and maybe white and black is almost non-existent. And then you try to draft and everyone's gotta pick blue, because blue is the most prominent color. So try to keep that in mind and balance out colors, get some more or remove some from the more prominent color so that the colors are balanced out. So I bought 2 more unlimited cards here. This one is a little bent, that's kind of sad. Those are another 2 lightning bolts. No, I'm sorry, a lightning bolt and a smoke. They looked quite similar at first glance. Let's try to get this bend out of here. That looks a little better. I'll see if the seller stated that this card had a bend through it, because the other card isn't. That means that the letter wasn't bent, and therefore the card must have been bent before. I'll check for inking real quick, but the edges look nice and clean and white, just as I like them. And I'm glad to add those to the collection as well. I don't mind if the card has like some slight bending or maybe minor water damage, since it's still playable and the face of the card looks still nice. From afar you won't notice it, only if you try to shine through the sleeve with some light and try to see if the bent card is the next one that comes up on your deck. I mean, yeah, you won't notice. You won't really notice. Let's put those in here, and that sums up the explanation of how I would go about, or I am going about, building the unlimited set cube. But the question arises in regards to more difficult sets, since this is where Wizards added different levels of rarity. So they had like U1s and U2s, or C1s or C6s, and I'm going to dive into that in the next part of the video. I'm gonna put those aside here. These will go into my wonderful Gamegenic box. These are all the unlimited cards I own right now, so I still need quite a lot to be able to play with them, but I'm glad to have those, and these will wait until I have enough to play with, like maybe at least 4 players before I play it. Now for the second part of the video, we have quite an expensive card in here, which cost me hundreds of euros. I'm gonna look into that in a second. But before that, let's try to answer the question of how I go about sets that had different rarities than we are used to today, meaning sets like the Arabian Nights set or the Dark set. As you know, the Dark set is complete, so I'm able to play this with 10 players already. And what you have to know about the Dark set is that the commons are divided into C3s and C1s, and there's actually only one C1 card. What does that mean? What does the difference between C3 and C1 actually mean? That means you had a whole print sheet and the C3 cards appeared 3 times, while the Maze of Ith, which is the only C1 in the set, appeared once. So all the other commons in the set actually are a little more common than the Maze of Ith. So our calculation becomes a little more complicated, but bear with me, I'll try to break it down as much as I can. So first of all, the Dark set came in boosters of 8 cards. That means you had 6 commons in a booster pack and 2 uncommons. So when you bought a booster of the Dark or would buy one today, you might get something like this. These are your 6 commons and the 2 rares or uncommons. So they mixed that. Though not really rares existed, they all were printed on one uncommon print sheet, but some uncommons were rarer than others. So my solution for this, to still get a nice draft experience, but also have the experience of actually opening the Dark boosters, was trying to match the amount of cards you would need for a draft. So instead of 3 boosters to draft, now every player gets 6 boosters to draft. Which means that you actually get 3 cards more to play with in the Dark draft environment than you would get in the Unlimited environment. So 3 boosters for Unlimited would mean 45 cards to draft with, and in this case, with the Dark set cube, you would get 6 times 8 cards, meaning 48 cards. So this is where you get the extra 3 cards. So for this set cube, I approached it like this. You need 6 commons and 2 uncommons to create the Dark booster pack. When we give 6 boosters to every player, we need 6 times 6 cards for each player, times 10 if we want to play it with 10 people, results in 360 cards in total for the common slot. And now we have to calculate how many commons do we need of each common from the Dark. You have C3s and C1s. For the entire pool of C3s, you have 1 C1. And since there are 40 different C3s in the entire The Dark set and 1 C1 for those 40 The Dark C3s, which we have to multiply by 3, since they are 3 times more common than the C1 Maze of Ith here, we are already at 121 cards for this set. Now this is still not enough, so if we multiply it by 3, we are at 363, meaning if we play this entire set with 10 players, we would have 3 commons left on the side since we didn't draft them. But yeah, that's enough to play with 10 players. That also means that I actually have 3 Mazes of Ith in the entire common pool and 9 of each C3 card for the Dark commons. Now lastly, let's look at the uncommons here before we open the last letter, and also look at the Arabian Nights distribution for commons, uncommons, and rares. The Dark set has 35 U1 cards and 43 U2 cards. That means that some of these uncommons appear twice on the print sheet, while some other cards only appeared once. I think the City of Shadows, for example, is one that appeared once, while the Bone Flute appeared twice. So this is a U2 and this is a U1. We are giving each player 2 uncommons per booster pack, which means if we give them 6 boosters, that we already need 12 uncommons / rares, which don't exist, they are U1s. And if we multiply it by 10, we can play it with 10 players. So we need a total of 120 uncommons / rares for the dark set. Now, luckily for us, if we buy 2 of each U2 card and 1 of each U1 card, we are already at 121 uncommons, which is enough to play the dark set cube with 10 players. I'll put some links in the description for Cube Cobra, which is a wonderful tool to create deck lists for cubes. And let me know if these calculations helped you decide on how many commons, uncommons, rares you need of a certain set. Now let's lastly look at the Arabian Nights set, which I don't have many cards of, as you can see. The dark set I am already finished with, while I still need a whole bunch of cards for the Arabian Nights set. If you also want me to do some calculations for the Legends set as well as the Antiquities set, do let me know in the comments. But I think by now the point should be made clear how I go about these calculations to decide on how many cards I need. Now, I already mentioned that I paid quite a lot for this card. Now, the question I want to ask you is this. Would you rather buy 2 Modern Horizons 3 Play Booster boxes, which are pre-ordering for around 500 bucks in total? Or would you rather buy a Guardian Beast signed from Arabian Nights? Let me know in the comments what you think. You know my answer, because you already see the card, and man, this is gorgeous. It has some tiny scratches here on the side. Other than that, the card is very clean. Some minor scuffing here, scuffing marks, and some white spot here, but no inking whatsoever, besides the signature of the artist. The card has seen some play, as you can see, some minor scuff marks on the back, but all in all, I'd say still wonderful condition. And thank you to the Facebook seller who sold me this wonderful card here. I'm glad to have this, and this will go right into my, well, beginning of the Arabian Nights set cube. And man, it's crazy what Wizards is asking for these days for booster boxes. 250 bucks for a single booster box of play boosters. And the collector boosters are also not cheap. 350, I think, currently euros here on Cardmarket. We'll see where they balance out after release. I will get myself some bundles. There will also be a gift bundle, so I'm gonna get that, but no other displays or booster packs from the upcoming sets. My focus is on vintage cards, and I got this wonderful Guardian Beast rare. I actually owned this one before, and I bought it for like, I think 50 bucks before the COVID craze of reserved list cards. And I traded it away for a couple of unlimited cards, and then I did not collect unlimited up until then, and I traded those away. But yeah, I got my money's worth of cards for the Guardian Beast back then, and it was really like, it had quite some damage. I think a corner was missing. I'll see if I have a picture, I will show it here on screen. If I don't, the corner was missing and there were like dots, like holes in the card, and I think maybe it was kind of like burned a little. It had a signature of Richard Garfield in the middle, so that was nice. But yeah, this card was damaged, and now owning a good condition Guardian Beast signed by the artist is just so refreshing, actually. I played this one in my King Makar deck, and maybe if I undust it, I will put the Guardian Beast back in, since you see my Arabian Nights set is far from being playable. But yeah, now let's look at the Arabian Nights set. As you can see on the Planet MtG website, there are several different common levels, but what you can actually break it down to is this. Let's take, for example, the Graders, who have two different versions. Some of them are C3 and some of them are C2. Thing is, both of them are the same, except for the fact that they have a lighter and a darker printing version of mana costs. See if we have an example here. Yeah, so for example, my Moorish Cavalry is a darker printing than the War Elephant here, which is a lighter printing. So the colorless mana costs were darker or lighter, and on the black cards you really have problems sometimes reading that, because the Guardian Beast is not a 1 black mana creature, but it also costs 3 colorless, which you can almost not read and might actually overread. For me, it's not really important to have lighter and darker printings, but rather I want playability, and the cheapest one is the darker printing. If I find light printings cheaper than darker printings or relatively cheap, I will get lighter printings as well. But what that means is that you can actually sum up the C3 and C2s together to be a C5. And this actually affects, if I didn't miscalculate, 9 cards. So we have 9 C5s. And then we have others like the Giant Tortoise here, which is a C3 and a C1, depending on the lighter and darker printing version, which can be summed up to be C4s, and this affects 16 cards. Then lastly, similar to the dark set, we have one C11 card, which means that this card appeared 11 times, while the others appeared 4 times or 5 times, like the Camel and the Cavalry. And then you have the same calculation like the dark set. Arabian Nights was a 8 card booster pack set, so you had 1 rare, yeah, I'm being generous today, and several uncommons, like these maybe, this and that. I think Cyclone is another uncommon. I misspoke, by the way. 2 uncommons and 6 commons, like this maybe. Let's get some variation in colors here. So this could be a booster pack, and maybe let's put a desert in here, since this will be the most common in the set. This could be a booster pack of cards you open for an Arabian Nights booster pack. And now when you do the calculations, you have 9 C5s, which is 45 cards. You have 16 C4s, which is 64. And you have 1 C11, which means 11 cards. And that adds up to around 120 cards. I left out the mountain, which is a C1, which is why we're not adding up to 121, because I just didn't want people to draft a mountain, and as I said earlier with the unlimited set cube, people are getting the lands in the end where they build the deck, and I want people to actually draft cards, not basic lands. If we want 6 boosters, 10 players, again, we need 360 commons, which is perfect for the 120 commons that we have if we have one entire set of commons taking into account their rarity, and then we just need it times 3. Now this set has exactly 17 U3s, 33 U2s, and 1 U4. If we take into account their rarity appearance, so 3 times 17 plus 2 times 33 plus 1 times 4, this adds up to, again, 121 cards, and we only need 120 uncommons / rares, they don't exist in this set, to play with 10 players. This set will be the most expensive. We will need Guardian Beast twice, for example. Bazaar of Baghdad I will need 3 times. Library of Alexandria I will need 3 times. So this set will be quite a journey, but I started it, and some of the cards I got cheaper or relatively cheap. Remember to don't get discouraged by the amount of cards that you need to build a vintage set cube. Right now these cards are cheaper than they were a year ago. So maybe right now is a good time to snatch up some commons. Just chop away little by little, and faster than you will know, you actually have a playable set of a vintage cube of a vintage set, which you can play with maybe 4 people already. I know this was a very long video. Let me know if you stuck till the end by leaving a #camel in your comment below. And now I do want to hear from you. Did this help you in any way, the calculations? Do you need any other information? Want me to help you calculate how many cards you need of a specific set? Let me know in the comments below. Enjoy your day. Right now it's very sunny here in Germany. Where I live, everyone is riding their motorcycles and it's quite loud, as you can hear maybe in the background. Click the left button for more vintage videos in the future and the right one for some more Cardboard Tutor awesomeness. See you there and bye bye.